How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the YugioH. I'm your beloved host for this evening, and let's talk Water and Wind events. What decks do you expect to see in this event? What are some good decks you can use to basically finish the event as potentially as fast as possible? We're going to look at a couple of decks, some budget options, because I know not everybody will have the most crazy budget they can possibly have in this game. And we're going to also look at some pricey decks that you could definitely be showcased on this event, during this event, because this is going to be a pretty cool event. Only we're doing the water monsters, so let's first talk about the loner decks. So, all loner decks, of course, are going to be seen a lot in the event because for people who do not have a wind, water, or wind attribute deck, they're forced to use loner decks, and all three of these are pretty solid. You have, of course, the Ice Barriers, you have Speedroids, and you have yugioh. All three of these decks, I feel like, are going to be solid choices for the event, especially if you're able to make one your own, because each one can do things differently. Ice Barriers gain a pretty nice little boost with the new support, making it much more decent inboard if they go first, and can pretty much, I've seen some people be able to OTK the Ice Barriers going seconds. Speedroids has always been a solid choice in any type of event that sort of is like synchro-oriented, or in this case, like a wind, water attribute, so I think it's going to be definitely solid because you can set up it's one of the few decks that can actually set up negates. You know, such as your Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, your Crystal Clear Wing Synchro Dragon, so it can set up a bunch of cool negates since Morenes is banned in the event, so the generic level 10 Synchro that is just going to negate anything is not legal, so it does lose a little power because of that, but being one of the few decks that can actually set up couple of negates going first is really solid for what it can actually do. And then of course we do have the yugioh, which is definitely my personally kind of an overlooked deck. It can do a lot of things. It doesn't set up any negations, but what it does do greatly, and that is being able to just play on your opponent's turn and banish out your opponent's plays with things such as the Ascon, and if you're able to go into the big boss monster, which is yugioh of the Beyond. And you can also play a little bit of some grind game with like some Kraken and gain draw and hand advantage off of Great Bubble Reef. So yugioh would be like a very solid option for the upcoming event. And all these loner decks are really great for the. All these loner decks are really powerful. And like I said, if you're able to build these decks on your own, like Ice Barriers, Speedroids, and yugioh, I feel like you're definitely gonna have a really solid time in this upcoming event, which is starting in a couple of days. So let's go look at some other decks that are not the loner decks that you could potentially use in this upcoming event. Alright, so the first deck I want to talk about for this upcoming event is Sharks. Sharks, in my personal opinion, can do pretty well due to the fact that it doesn't set up negations like Speedroids, but it sets up quite a bit of interruptions, which is great. I would definitely recommend playing things like Ghost Warner in this event over Droll, but I have Ghost Warner because I'm a screw-up. But despite that, being able to set up some plays such as like you can go Kraken Control, be able to kind of absorb your opponent's monster full armor, Dark Knight Lancer, and also the deck being fairly cheap in terms of the main deck. Actually, that can get a little bit of a pricey thing, because things like Bahama Sharks are really powerful in the decks, like Mr. Dweller, Kraken's also really good, but overall the main deck is actually very cheap. And you can kind of get away with doing certain things. Like, I'm sure plenty of people have Kraken from the Legacy packs, or they bought it from the Xyz Cup pack that they had released during that little event. I'm sure you have at least one or two of those lying around, most likely. This, XYZ Armor Fortress is an SR. This is, of course, one of the few URs you would technically need. Like, Bahamas is also really solid for a couple other plays. You can run things like Instant Contact Server, it's that fusion to go use things such as Marine Dolphin to really go into your rank 4 plays. There's a lot of things you do with Sharks, and it's really solid, especially since we don't have like Maxi or Ashbones to really worry about. You do still have things like Ghost Mourner, so you still want to have things like Bubble Grave in the deck to help stop Ghost Mourner, so that way you'll be able to actually play your deck. Alright, so the next deck I really want to talk about, because it's actually very cheap in terms of the materials, and that is Umi Control. Umi Control only requires, keep in mind I said requires. Alright, I do apologize for that, but Umi Control fairly cheap. Only realistic requires 4 URs, 3 Karyushin, and then 1 Fortress Whale, Mega Fortress Whale. The extra deck doesn't matter a lot of the time because you're basically using it for pot fodder. You don't really go into it because you're pretty much stun locking your opponent with Karyushin. Now, Karyushin will be a little less effective in this event because, you typically only have 2 attributes in. It's a 50-50 shot whether or not you're going to get a water attribute deck or a wind attribute deck. If you get a wind attribute deck, you're golden with the Karyushin. But if you get a water-based deck, you're kind of left in the dust there because Karyushin doesn't really do much against other water decks. It's a pretty big uphill battle. But in this build, you have your basic stun cards such as Jellyfish. We have, of course, 2 Warrior Atlantis to kind of help search out our Western Ocean because we want to get down the field as fast as possible. Because this will also mess up any Xyz-based decks as well as any Synchro-based decks. Well, not really Synchro-based, but mainly Xyz-based decks if there are water. If you're playing Sharks, this could kind of hurt you a little bit from the get-go. We also play things like Evenly Matched, so that way if our opponent has a board we don't like, we can potentially get rid of it with Evenly Matched and kind of set up our own stuff to be able to stun lock our opponent. And of course, you do have consistent cards like you have Pot Extravagance, Pot of Prosperity. Fish Stoner is really good. It's very good to send that nice barrier in order to be able to search out your Karyushin or one of your Gamma Seals. If you are having issues with a potential threatening card, you can catch that away. Of course, still playing the Ghost Mourner, so that way we can potentially negate a monster effect from activating. Ghost Mourner is going to be very powerful in these events, so if you have them, definitely play them. I don't, so it's going to be fun. And next deck, they're just kind of it's suited towards the event a little bit, but some cards you're going to be playing a lot more of, such as your Kraken, maybe like your Morenes for an enemy if you have it, Bahamashaka. There's a couple things you could be playing a little bit more of, but realistically, your deck doesn't really matter too much in movement control. It's more of just a pot fodder thing that you're really going to be using. The next deck I'm going to talk about is Magic Spectre. Not this particular build because A, the extra kind of set up for the event, and B, Village is banned in the upcoming event. So, I'm just showing you my personal build of Magic Spectres just for ranked, but I do want to talk about the deck and the fact that I personally think it could definitely do some good in the event as more of a stun-based deck. It's already a stun-based deck, but even more so with more trap control versus just sitting on Village with Kieran with a couple traps and just calling it a day. So based on cards I recommend is maybe playing things like maybe Evenly Matched. Again, going second, having the Evenly Matched would be really crucial for this deck. That way you can kind of clear the board and start setting up your board to help stun your opponents if they, when it comes to their turn. Kieran is a very powerful card, as is a non-destruction removal card. You still have things such as for you which can cheese out the Kieran. You have Magic Wind, which can easily cheese out any wind monster you really need. You can easily up your Tornadoes and your Tempests up to maybe 2 or something like that to lock in some more stun elements, and you can throw in some more stun traps such as Ice Dragon's Prison. I can't speak today, I do apologize. Like things like maybe Torrential Tribute or whatever you want to do, because this is a pendulum-based deck, so you can take advantage of things like Torrential Tribute. You have like New, which is really, really nice. And you can easily replace the Secret Village with the Magic Spectre Field Spell, which will give you even more advantage and a little bit more swarming capabilities that can actually do. And there are plenty of good generic rank 4s you can go into, as well as some other Link 2 when monsters, like for the Xyz monsters, you have like Chidori, you have like the Wind Charmer Link 2. You have all kinds of different things you can go into with this deck to kind of help you make your plays. So definitely watch out for Magic Spectres. I feel like the deck would definitely be played in the event because it's just a nice, solid, cheap option. Because if you think about it, this deck right here only requires at least 1 UR. Because you don't technically have to run Call by the Base if you don't want to, but the Draco is the only monster in the actual archetype itself that is a UR that you will actually play. There is another Draco Xyz monster you can definitely play just to kind of fill the extra. It is a UR, but Ryu is kind of the main one you need to cheese out things like Kieran So yeah, that is something definitely we need to. So let's hop into some more. A couple more decks I want to talk about for the upcoming event. There's one more deck I can do on this account, then we'll switch over to my alt accounts and talk about a couple things in there because I have a room to do one more decks over there. Alright, so the next deck I really want to talk about would be a pretty solid choice. But before we do this, I do want to mention something about Magic Spectre I did forget to mention. Is the fact that all your Pendulum Magic Spectre monsters are safe from Ghost Motor since they can't be targeted by opponent's effects. So Ghost Motor target. So they're safe from Ghost Motor. So you can literally free search for Homunculus and stuff. It's crazy. You knew he's not safe. That sucks, but still, you can still search your deck for your spells and traps and your other monsters with your main deck Magic Spectre monsters. So I wanted to make note of that real quick. But anyway. So Morenes is another decently solid option. It's fairly cheap because of the fact that it's not mining, you can get a structure deck. The only 2 URs that you have in the actual archetype itself is Argonaut and Coral Triangle. I blanked the name, I do apologize. The one main downside to the deck for the event is the fact that Wave is banned in the event. Morenes' Wave being banned is a pretty big blow for the deck, because that is a free monster negation if you have like a length 3 or higher Morenes monster on your board, so you can activate from the hand. Not only that, but it makes all your monsters 8 towers for the turn, which is insane. But I can see why they got rid of it. But even without the Wave, the deck is still pretty viable. My personal opinion is you still have the Argonaut, which you can make into a tower with the Crystal Heart plus the Field Spell. You still have Revival with Mercy's Dive, you have one card combo in terms of Blue Tang, you still can play a plethora of hand traps. Well, normally you can, but in the events you really don't limit to like 3 hand traps I think you can run, which is Dronelock Birds, Polka Dog Wood, and Ghost Mortar. So you have like different hand traps you can still technically play in the deck. So it has a lot of different variations and lots of different things you can actually do, which is really nice. And of course you have the powerful Sea Atlantis, so if you end up versing like a non-water based deck, like a wind based deck, Sea Atlantis is just insane, it's crazy. So yeah, definitely look at Morenes. It's very, very cheap if you haven't looked it up yet. It's really solid fun. I guarantee people will enjoy it even after the event is done. So let's hop up to my alt account and we'll take a look at a couple more decks for the upcoming event that I think will definitely be solid choices for everybody to use. Alright guys, so this is going to be my second to last deck that I will be showcasing you guys here in terms of the event. It is Harpy Ladies. Harpies, in my opinion, will be a solid deck for this event. It's kind of pricey because of the fact that you need your Channeler, you're going to need at least one Feather, you need one Feather Storm, you need at least 1 to 2 Slapper/Harpy Ladies to flush your extra deck a little bit. But the deck can swarm, the deck can span, the deck can set up a decent first board. It's not an amazing first board, I'm not gonna lie, but this is definitely a going second deck. It can definitely OTK and do some shenanigans. Having the most broken card in the game in Feather Storm, non-destruction removal, there's Slapper/Harpy Lady, really solid extra monsters like Lightning Chidori, Ice Beast Xerophone, Tino Dragon, Castell, Draco Stack being a nice generic, it's generic, comes in generic, a nice generic rank 7 wind monster, great flight to boost your attack. You have swarming capabilities of Hysteric Party. It's just overall a really solid deck. You have Small World to boost consistency because you can use both Mourner and your Pet Dragon as a Small World Bridge to pretty much get you any Harpy Lady you need from your deck to your hand. It is crazy. Small World, nuts. Definitely a crazy card. Definitely recommend Harpies for the event. If you haven't done it already, I would not recommend building the deck just for the event because it is kind of pricey, unless you really enjoy Harpies and you want to use them outside of the event and ranked. But other than that, if you have the deck already, definitely go with it. Very nice. Alright, now the last deck I really want to showcase, and that is Yosenju's. Yosenju's is cheap. Like, I mean cheap. We're going with a little Yosenju Stun here because of the fact that, in my opinion, that's the best way to play Yosenju's in this event is Yosenju Stun, because the Pendulum one is not reliable enough. So basically we're playing, of course, 3 of each of your main Senjus. We're playing a couple of the Izanis to kind of help make sure his Senju plays can still go off. We have Tinky for consistency as well as the double pots. The extra doesn't even matter because we're just basically using it for pot plays because we want to be able to constantly use our Senju's effects to disrupt our opponents, especially since we can recycle Sword Sting with the training grounds. It's just really great. Of course, we have a couple kaijus in our opponent's plays. Like, the most common play with Senjus is kaiju the opponent, summon one, bounce kaiju to hand for use for next turn. It's nuts. We have things like the Storming Mirror Force, Running Mirror Force to kind of help do a mash move on our opponent. You can easily play things like Regeki, Lightning Storm. So many great cards to actually use in your Senjus. And like I said, the deck is cheap. Literally, just throwing any amount of extra monsters that are wind and water attribute, don't have to be higher rarity, and you are solid for those draw powers. Like, the only yours I would highly recommend getting are things like Ember, which a lot of people should have already. Ghost Motor, if you don't have them already. If you're able to craft them, obviously go and craft them, because I think Ghost Motor is going to be a decently good card. It's always a good card to have, and always nice to have more hand traps for events like this, in case something like this does pop up in the future once again. But yeah, overall, Senjus, very solid choice. But yeah, that's going to be all for the decks that I feel like are definitely be solid. Our decks you can definitely use in the event that will give you some renowned success in the event. If there's any decks that I may not have thought of, feel free to put them in the comments below. I know I didn't go really in depth in terms of other decks like the Ice Bear and stuff because they're the loner decks. People are seeing them, so they're right there. You can kind of look at them and they're all going to be solid choices. But if there's any other decks besides one of the showcase and they're ones that are not the loner decks, I want to know because, there's so many decks out there, so many different ways to play the game. I may have missed them and I do apologize. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.